It's a book around corruption in Johannesburg, and particularly the relationship between the police and the drug dealers in West Johannesburg. All the time you're seeing these bribes take place. So a day wouldn't go by, almost every few hours, where a police officer receives a bribe from a drug dealer. And it's right out in the open, and once you've sort of seen it happen, you can't unsee it. It's so obvious. For me, it created a sense of that the police are not necessarily people to rely upon, but at the same time, it is kind of an ecosystem which is existing. So in the book, in the street, there is this sense that everyone is kind of part of the system. There's shop owners, there's drug dealers, there's drug users, and there's police officers, and they are all, in some cases, adapting and benefiting from the system. Well, I think a lot of the police officers I met, even though the book is about police corruption, a lot of police officers I met start at least wanting to do a good job. They don't get into the police to be involved in drug lords and be into corruption. It's a sense that the way that the police is constructed almost creates this kind of crime tolerance within the police. And I think you could change it by making people, first of all, more accountable, because at the moment it feels like there is no discipline at all. It's just a complete free-for-all. And you want to change that, but then at the same time I think that by treating people on the ground with more respect from just on a station level, like if there's just more of a sense of hierarchy and respect from the very bottom to the top, I think that like people will feel that they got into this job for the right reasons, and that is rewarded. Yeah. Kaba, the character in the book, he lives in a place in Johannesburg in the barracks, and really his space is not much bigger than a double bed. The windows are sealed shut to prevent any kind of suicide attempts, which makes that there's no air in the space. Really, it's a tiny living place where he shares a bathroom with everyone else on the floor. And you have to think that we're kind of putting our police officers in conditions that's really unlivable. We're expecting them to do incredibly dangerous work and come home to something that really is not sustainable for a good working life. Yeah, I mean, when I would visit the police barracks, you would spend a few hours interviewing someone, and the smell of bleach, because he was so meticulous in terms of cleaning his space, it would just be overwhelming because there's no air in there. You're in a tiny closed environment. Yeah, I can't imagine living there. Well, everyone who's involved in the book knew that obviously a book was being written. So when The Street came out, they were aware that that their names would be changed, first of all. And even though it was very important for us to have the location of Johannesburg and on Deckers, we have changed certain details throughout the book in order to protect people's identities. But also there's been a great sense that everyone who I spoke to wants this story exposed, you know, and they know that it can't be done in just a few newspaper articles. It's very hard to connect that. It needs to be done in sort of a longer narrative form, and hopefully this book kind of brings that together and shows people the severity of the problem, and also how someone can get caught up in it, who's not a police officer, who's not a drug dealer, someone like you and me who can be forced into the situation and how they would cope.